right here to answer your media and tech-related production questions. Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia is our reader today. Alexander, what have we got?
Our first question this morning comes from Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. Here's an Amazon gear list for teachers doing morning announcements at a high school. Anything you would add or delete?
And we're going right back to Alexander for your first answer. Alexander.
Yeah, so I had a look at the list here. There's a bunch of stuff on here. Lots of computer-related stuff. Obviously, we got Stream Decks, we got headphones, we've got Thunderbolt docks. There's some lighting, webcam, Ozbot stuff, some Rode Wireless Go interface here. When I look at this, to me, this looks like you're building some kind of remote setup here because you've got cameras, you've got lights, and stuff like that. Based on the question, the way it was asked, you asked about doing morning announcements. So if it's not announcements done on intercom, it would normally be done in the gym, I'm assuming, with some kind of assembly.
Well,
so you'd need a PA system, right?
I think it's a stream. Like it would be.
It must be, right? Because there's no PA system in here. I wouldn't suggest the Rode Wireless Go product unless you really need that freedom of movement. If you're just sitting down, obviously you're building a streaming setup or some kind of remote Zoom setup with the camera and the lights, I would suggest a dynamic wired microphone. There's really no reason to go with a consumer-grade wireless product for this and risk audio dropouts in the middle of your session there. Usually a dynamic microphone like the Shure MV6 is a really reasonably priced dynamic microphone, under $200, and it comes with a little tabletop mic stand, but I would recommend a low-profile mic arm. Elgato makes a low-profile mic arm that we've talked about here. Also Neewer, Neewer, that brand you can find on Amazon. They make a really good quality low-profile arm. You always have to worry about sight lines with camera stuff. So I would probably look at the MV6 microphone and replace the Rode Wireless Go. Other than that, everything looks pretty decent. You got a couple of GVM LED panel lights on there. They're smaller panels. They are affordable. I would recommend looking maybe at the Neewer brand of lights because you can actually get a slightly larger panel for about the same or less money. I think Neewer makes an 18-inch LED panel light that has really nice soft diffused light. So that would be my suggestion.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I'd build a diagram for it. Like, I don't know if you have one or not, but I would, if I was going to buy something, I'd build out a diagram of what you want to do, a wiring diagram, a kind of a layout diagram. It feels like there's a lot of things here that are probably more than I would get and some things that would be less. The green screen is pretty important. So I would really think about getting a composite components green screen. I give up a lot of other things to do that just because the cheaper green screens, I'm stingy about time and they take a lot more time and they don't produce as good a product. So a composite component screen stretched on a frame is going to, and I would get like a 9x12 kind of frame there. You're going to find is much better than the consumer one that you have for $24. It's going to be more expensive. The same thing is I don't know if I probably wouldn't get an Ozbot. I think I'd probably lean towards the link, the 360 link, Insta360 link if you're going to get a webcam. I think that again, as soon as you start doing green screen, you really need to stop thinking about webcams, to be honest. Like a green screen, pulling green screen from a webcam is really going to make everybody miserable. So you need to really be thinking about, as soon as you decide, now you don't have to use a green screen. You could build a set back there and do something else. But I think that, I think that would look, it's hard to make a set look great, and you can do really cool things. My son's school does they do a weekly broadcast they've got packages and they've got a green screen and they've got that's one of his classes that they do. And they do have a green screen, but they have a Blackmagic studio camera, my Blackmagic studio camera, because I saw what they were using. I was like, hey, how about we use this instead? So, I brought some more lights in to bring it up a little bit. But I would say that they, and the cool thing there is that we're working on a digital set for them, and that digital set will be coming from, we'll be doing in ChatGPT of all things, because it doesn't screw up the logos if you give it to Midjourney. So we're kind of using AI to build out the background for them. So there's a bunch of different things that you could do there. But I think that there's a lot of pieces here, and I don't know if I would. I know that's hard because schools need to get a bunch of money and then spend it. The hard part is that what you really want to do is try to be organic, which is that you need either the set or the green screen, and then you need the and the camera and the mic, and you got to decide whether you're willing to have a camera on screen or not. So this whole thing about what mic you use depends. I agree with Alexander. I wouldn't use a wireless mic, for this. But I think that, do you want to use a lav? I forgot how much I hate lavs until yesterday. I did a show with 3 lavs, and wow, do I hate lavs. Anyway, so but you may want to use a lav for it if you have a lot of. Are the surfaces hard? Like, do you need to absorb stuff in the room that you're shooting? Will it stay up permanently? These are all things that you want to kind of. It's less about is this the right list, and more about how big is the space, how often are you going to do it, what is it going to look like? Think about all of the mission processes, and maybe come back to us and tell us what those are. And then we can get, but just saying this is a list of stuff, I don't know if it's the right stuff. I feel like you have more than you need in some places and less than you need in others.
Courtney Gooden.
I took a look at the list, and one thing that was unusual on the list besides the lavs is there was a stick for hand holding the Rode Go as a hand mic. So I'm thinking maybe there's situations where they have guests on in the morning to do the announcements, like a celebrity or somebody else in the school who's getting an award that day or something. So they might have guests on during the school announcements that they need to interview or have say something. And so maybe that's why there's wireless mics and a handheld stick, so that they could interview somebody else instead of just a solitary person sitting like we are here blabbing into a single camera.
Chris Fenwick.
Roscoe, I think the money will be spent better if the people who need the gear realize why they need the gear. I would buy 1/4 of all of this stuff. Buy them the bare minimum. Have the budget. I get what Alex just said. Sometimes you just have to spend the money, and that's just evil. But I would set the money aside and say, oh, you think you need let's pick that out together and then buy it. You empower the people by allowing them to be part of the process. You're not buying stuff they don't want to learn how to use. You're buying stuff that they have come to the realization that they need. It's just money better. It's a better way to spend money than to just throw a big pile of somebody's wish list in front of somebody, because they won't use all of it. I promise you they won't. They just won't.
One of the things that I noticed from reading this is that it's teachers doing morning announcements. They're not having the students touch this. And so I think that's actually a little more difficult. And I'm going back to remembering my son was the 5th grade weatherman decades ago in his grade school. They had horrible cameras. They had old JVC hand-me-downs and things like that. But they had so much fun. And they had 2 teachers. My wife was one of them who spent a lot of time. She worked in TV newsrooms and things like that. And we had another writer from the Arizona Republic, we were living in Arizona at the time, who was a classroom volunteer. They had such a great time, and I think the kids learned a ton about how to do it themselves. This doesn't seem like it's that kind of environment. Again, if it's just teachers doing morning announcements, you just want something bulletproof, because they're just going to turn it on, make the announcements, and go away. They're not really using it as that much of a learning experience, unless I'm wrong about all of this. Alex, you want to get back in?
Yeah, I don't know why I would have teachers do it. Like just this is a student project. Like, get students together. You'll find at any school with more than 1,000 students, you're going to find 3 that are willing to do it. It really should be a class. And if it's not, but the teacher shouldn't do it, because the teachers can present it. I wouldn't even do that, but they can if they want. But the main thing is that you shouldn't have the teachers unless they're learning and deciding to build a class around it. It really should be a learning experience. You're at a school, and so I think that having the kids learn how to do it. I know in the school that my kids are in, it's a pretty cool project, that they're working on, and the kids, I think, really enjoy it. You do need to find, you got to find that student that is going to help you kind of pull all those things together. My son is that student, but I think that, I think you should really think about doing it with the kids.
Next question.
This one's from Harold Williams in Portsmouth. When a house of worship live streams its services, what should be done when its offering is taken? We want the people online to give, but we don't want to be seen giving. What kind of substitution can be made for the offertory?
Chris Fenwick is going to weigh in on this. Chris?
Alexander, you're going to go back and listen to that and wonder how you got 4 syllables out of Harold. That was impressive. Harold, here's what I would do. I would produce, it usually takes about a song to do offering. I would produce a 3.5 minute video that tells the people online where their money is going and how it gets spent. I would update that video at least once a month, and I would make it interesting and compelling. And it will force the house of worship to think about what they're doing with the money that they bring in. And it will encourage people that their money is going to a good cause. That's what I would do. And I would play that video online. And if it proves to do a good job, they may do it during the service also.
Next question.
Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida asks, what are the most successful ways to socialize and advertise an upcoming YouTube live stream?
Going to start with Courtney Gooden here. Courtney.
The age-old practice of finding another YouTube live stream with a very broad audience, lots of viewers and subscribers. Get yourself invited onto that podcast and then promote yours. This is how the Tonight Show was built. Actors promoting whatever movie they have coming out. Same thing applies in social media. Find somebody with a larger following than you, go on their program, and you can talk about other stuff, and then okay it with them first. You don't want to drop this, come on and just do a big plug without them knowing about it. But just, say, I'd like to plug this at the end of our interview, or et cetera. And, drop that information. And that's one of the quickest ways to get your word out to a large number of people without having to spend money or advertise or try and find some way to post something on Discords or other groups that you're members of, because those might go unlooked at.
Alexander Knight.
Yeah, all the channels that I subscribe to, they have pretty good Discord communities, and I've been working on building my own. They all have an announcements tab where they can just ping everybody in that channel that they're about to do something live. You can use all sorts of bot automations to do this. So I think Discord is a really great place to do that other than just social media, because you really want to build a place where you have fans that are really interested in your content. You could have social media stuff, but if things get lost in the algorithm.
Alex Lindsay.
To kind of underline that, you really need the best way to promote a live stream is to do other live streams, to build a community around what you're doing over time. It's hard because everyone wants to just do a show, but the shows, you're not going to get that many viewers. It's very, very hard to get a lot of viewers. The second best way to do this is find influencers or other people with large audiences and incorporate them into the process. And you can incorporate them in a couple different ways. You can have them posting behind the scenes like, hey, we're looking for questions. I know you think that I might not care about questions because of the way this show works, but questions are a great way also to remind people that the event is happening. So you reach out to them and go, we're going to do this live stream on Tuesday. You can send your questions in now, and we'll address some of those questions on the show. And it feels less spammy than just sending, we're doing a show, and so that's something to kind of think about as far as ways to use that announcement. But think about all the other platforms and who's on those other platforms and whether there's any kind of traction there to promote it, do other little videos or other, it might be a series of things that are happening on Instagram or on X or on other TikTok to kind of build up an interest across those platforms. Because one of the things you generally want to do if you want to do live streaming, most of the other platforms, all the other platforms have substandard streaming platforms. Like YouTube is by far the best. And so you want to cross-pollinate all of your other social networks to get a following on YouTube, because that's where you're going to produce the best video. So think about how you feed them into that. And then the third best way to do it is money, advertising. Advertising works. There is Facebook ads and Google AdSense and so on and so forth are unbelievably effective. They are like looking into the sun effective. So really think about, whether you can, if you have a big event, a lot of the clients that I work with will spend tens of thousands of dollars on advertising to ensure people know about it. Now, you have to have a great show because you're going to push a whole bunch of people there. They're all going to get there in the first 5 minutes. And if you're not tap dancing really fast, they'll all be gone in 10 minutes.
Next question.
This one's from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What dynamic mics and battery-powered condenser mics work best with the Tascam DR-10X recorder for doing live interviews and field recordings?
Alexander Knight's going to start us off.
Well, you can use any dynamic microphone, but the one that I will steer you towards is the Sennheiser MD46. So if you're doing interviews, one of the reasons why I like this mic, there's two reasons. It's one, it sounds amazing, and to me it sounds better than an SM58. It also has a much longer handle, so your reach is much better when you're going back and forth like this in an interview. And the other thing, and I'll just show you a quick photo of the microphone. It's hard to judge scale based on the photo, but that's the MD46. It's not a very expensive microphone. It's a little bit more money than the SM58. It has a cardioid pickup pattern like the SM58, but I actually find the off-axis rejection on the null point of that microphone is actually superior to the SM58. So that's a pretty ubiquitous microphone in the interview world. And yes, you can use battery-powered condenser mics. I personally would not bother doing that. The other thing I noticed with this little plug-on XLR interface thing is that it does not have granular mic gain controls. It only gives you low, medium, and high. That is extremely limiting. I'm not saying it won't work with this microphone. Dynamic mics tend to have a very low output and will require a lot of gain, and it might work fine on the high gain setting. I just don't know what the noise floor is going to be because I've never tested this product.
Alex.
I wouldn't use this product. Just letting you know, like it's not. There's not enough there. The problem is that I don't think that they didn't solve enough of the problems. In this kind of, when you have low, medium, high, that they cut a lot of corners. So I just want to make sure, for this kind of recorder where you have very little input, I think Courtney mentioned this in the past, was that, I'm going to take it up, I'll leave it to Courtney to say what it is, but 32-bit, like if you can't hear something, if you can't hear what you're doing, if you're doing these records, you need 32-bit. This needs 32-bit. like there's not many places where you need 32-bit, but this is it. So I think that, I don't think that you should use this recorder. If you're going to use it, I would just put it on an SM58 and call it a day. You're going to get as good as you're going to get, with what you got there. So I really think that if you're going to do interviews that you think matter, then you need to stop thinking about convenience and start thinking about quality. Get a Zoom F series, or get or get a Sound Devices, Mix Pre 3 or something in that range, and put a little effort into it to get something better. This idea that you can run around, there's this whole, like, it's easy, I've said this before, it's easy to make content or it's easy to watch content. It is rarely both. And you have to, when you start building this out, you want to think about, if you're doing the hard work, you're doing the work for the viewer so that the viewer can enjoy what you're doing. When you save a little time and you make it easy for you, the chances of people wanting to watch it for a long period of time is very low.
Corny Gooden.
Yeah, I agree. The 32-bit, I don't know why they just didn't. It's only 16-bit or 24-bit fixed dynamic range. And as was mentioned earlier by Alexander, the 3-position gain control is not very good. So one of the solutions that they propose for it is this. What we used to do is dual recording. It'll record a 2-channel polywave file that has the second channel at a lower volume. So you have that mode to set. So in case you go over with something, it won't, and the primary channel distorts because it clips digitally if you're recording 16-bit or MP3. It records an MP3 or broadcast wave file, and it'll either record mono or dual channel poly. So the solution for covering the dynamic range is to have 2 levels set, one about 6 dB below the other one. But if you have a dynamic range, a microphone like an SM58, you'll have trouble getting enough gain out of it, much less a problem with it going over and distorting. So problem is, does it have it didn't seem to have more than a 65 dB gain, I think. And you really want to have 72 or a little bit higher to record that SM58 and get a good noise level, a good quiet noise level of the self noise of the recording preamps.
And all dynamic mics. I mean, I've used probably a dozen different dynamic mics for this kind of thing. This is an E&G news gathering style mic I owned a Beyer M58. Fine mic, did a great job for me. I've owned Electro Voice RE50s, which you used to see in news interviews all over the places. There's a number of microphones that are commonly used for that kind of interview in the field things. So check them out and look and see what you can get the best deal on. Next question.
This one comes from Mike Beardmore in Bedford, UK. Will spatial audio director be a job that AI will struggle to master as well as a human?
Courtney Gooden, what do you think?
No, I think humans will struggle to master it more than AI, because I think something like this where you use, there are sound objects like Atmos that have to be placed in 3D space for spatial video. It can do that. Steering is all just a matter of math and computation, and I think AI is getting pretty good at looking at a flat image, or maybe even a 3D image, even better, a 3D image, and determining positions of things in space. And so it's just a matter of taking these objects and calculating their placement and figuring out. I mean, VO3 and VO2 even create sound effects and audio. They synthesize the sound effects. AI could now synthesize the sound effects, format it in the format of Atmos, and position it based on the depth cue of what it sees in the frame. Like the demonstration that they show in this video is, let's say, waves crashing on a beach, and you have the sound of the little rivulets and things of water going past you as the wave crashes past you. And, I would think AI would be pretty good at generating spatial sound if you train it. The problem is, for something that is, has such a small audience, is it worth the time and expense to write the tools that will do that specifically? That's a question. But I guess to do it, if they could do it with Atmos for a feature film and have it do all the spatial audio work for an Atmos theatrical feature, it probably would be worth generating the tools.
Alex Lindsay.
75 million iPhones are sold every year, and it is and they all can do Atmos into it. so it's a pretty big market. And that's just the iPhone. Basically, every Apple device made in the last decade does it, and now Apple is moving to, and what's being shown here. What was kind of referred to in the question is this is from the Apple Immersive event, and if you really want to see what Apple's doing or start to get a sense of it, this is really breaking down. I'm surprised that they even showed all of this stuff, but it really breaks down how the camera works, how the audio works, or how they do a lot of the bits and pieces. And this is just in between. This was a live event that I actually was at, so it's close enough to my house, and really, really great content. I would watch that. I plan to watch it again. I was really glad to see that a lot of us are sitting there taking pictures of the screens, afraid that we'll never see those screens again. And fortunately, it was all put up on YouTube. But I will say that Apple is really focused on what's called Apple Spatial Audio Format and Apple Positional Audio Codec, so ASAF and APAC. And they're talking through these, and it's really interesting. They're really designed around the head. So they're not trying to they're not trying to replace film. They're not trying to replace near field. So what you're watching at home, they are designed for headphones, in your head. And Apple is taking a very, very specific view of how to ultimately build the best audio experience if you have headphones in, or if you have a VR headset. And so the ASAF is this very, very highly focused Apple-esque, and the only places that you can do it, there's a plugin that Apple actually built as a nod to, you have to pay attention to Pro Tools. Apple built an entire suite of tools that just work in Pro Tools for ASAF, and then Resolve just built them into Resolve. So those are the two places that you can play in this area. But I think that if anyone thinks that Apple's backing away from a headset, they probably might want to watch how deep the well goes here. As far as going back to design, I think machine learning and I think AI will dance with with someone who's creating something and give them a lot of tools that make it easier for them to do what they do. But I think, again, as I watch a lot of AI generated stuff, I think that there is a place where you want it to extend what a human's doing, not necessarily take it over. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of.
Chris Fenwick.
I could have sworn, Alex, you were going to say that Apple's put a lot of effort into for anybody who has a head. When you were talking about they were dealing with.
If you have a head, Apple's building something for you.
Apple's building the perfect product for you.
No, it's really interesting because it's the hard part is that when you talk to people who decide whether they're going to play Apple Music or Spotify, for a long time people would say, well, Spotify finds this, their suggestions are better. I'm not clear that they are anymore. I think they were a year ago, but I think Apple's spent enormous amounts of money to fix that. But most people who switch over to Apple Music they do it because it sounds so much better. It's so much better. Like when you listen, if you're someone who listens to Apple Music all the time and then you open up Spotify, it sounds like someone put a rug over it compared to what you're used to, and I think and when you have a company that owns the music platform, but also owns the hardware and can tune it for the music platform and also owns the means of production, this is a Krupp's arms level vertical market that Apple has built around how to deliver the stuff to everyone from the raw capture to the people listening. It's kind of a really interesting thing to watch.
Courtney Popdip wants to get in on this. Courtney?
Yeah, basically, this is creating sound and immersive sound for headsets, headphones, and there's been a way to do that for years. Maybe not too cheaply. You get you one of these Neumann binaural dummy heads, and it will record that spatial sound. You just stick it out there and record stereo pair of channels, and you have your immersive audio. I guess, they were talking about maybe production generating these sound effects from scratch, let's say, rather than recording them spatially. And the iPhones recording spatially, do they really record binaural spatially?
I don't think it matters whether the iPhone's covered. We're talking about sound design. So you can capture something with the Neumann binaural, which is really cool, by the way. I got to use it a little earlier this year. But it's more about how do you design the experience in a really full-on production. You're not going to necessarily just go capture something with a head. You're going to need to put things in if you look at ASAF and what Apple's done, I think right now, I believe it's fifth order ambisonic, is built into the kind of the design, and there's a whole design workflow. So it's not like we're just going to record what we're doing like a movie. We're going to gather a bunch of sounds and design sounds and put them where they need to be to create this atmosphere. There's such a working with John Ross, who's been on our show in the past. You realize how he played this music video for me, and it was kind of like this cacophony of things that were happening in music and everything else all around you, and you were hearing this stuff. And then when the singer started to sing, he immediately jumped out. It just felt like it felt 3D, but like he was right in front of you, more than the video would be 3D. It was interesting. I asked John, why was that? How did that happen? He goes, well, I used the first couple minutes to build in your mind. I built this huge space, and then I put somebody in it. And so the thing is that design is not capturing something with a binaural mic. It is thinking about all those things and when they come in and the kind of a symphony of things that have to come back together. And what's been missing is the tools to do that. I mean, Amos has had tools. Obviously, the issue now is that when Apple comes in and starts building tools, it's they're just more robust. So I think and again, it's going to be interesting because ASAP is really, other people can use it, but it's really Apple's thing, and it's going to be, if Apple keeps going down the path that they're going, it's going to be really hard to keep up. because they're, from a sound quality perspective, because they have all the parts of the puzzle figured out.
Hey, if you enjoyed the discussions you're listening to here on Office Hours, you can get a little more involved by going into our Q&A system and actually helping program the show. Just go to officehours.global/join. You'll get an email within a day or two, and once you've done that, you kind of get into the system. You can join everybody who's watching the show, but also participating through the Q&A system. It's really a lot of fun. It's a great community there. That's officehours.global/join, and it's kind of the next step of people coming into the show, officehours.global/join. Next question.
This one's from Tommy Shantz in St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. I lost a static IP for my Mac Mini again. That is the hub of my stream. The DHCP gave me a new addy, but it won't go static. Why would this happen?
Alex is going to help you out. Alex?
I'm confused about what that means. Are you setting a manual setting for the Mac Mini, or are you waiting for your DHCP to serve up that and then keep it the same? Those are, those reservations, so, if you want it to be static, like this is the IP that I'm using, you can give it a static IP, or not a static IP, but you go to manual, you just set the IP. There shouldn't be, I've never seen it not let you do that. If you're talking about the fact that it keeps changing the reservation, that's your router. And your router can, what we do with these kinds of systems is we do leave it on DHCP, but we build reservations inside the router that are based on the MAC address. So it says, and I don't mean Mac Mini, I mean the Ethernet address. And it says, if I see that one, this is the IP I give it. And we hold the reservations for all of the hardware inside the router, as opposed, we prefer to do it that way as opposed to, and again, if and I think Mickey was talking about NICs, if that computer then has its own, you got to be kind of careful if you're going to use it as a USB one, because things can change there. But if you're plugging it in, basically all the hardware we use, or when I build a system, they're all when we had like, I guess nine remote systems for Pixel Core, and in all of those, the Meraki router knew what they all were. Not only that, they were all the same between everything. So the switcher, if someone said, I have a switcher, I just say, what kit do you have? And I would know if they said it was kit 6 or kit 8, I would immediately know what the IP was of the switcher, of the HyperDex, of the, everything would be the same, except it would be just a slightly different subnet.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, that's what I would do whenever I get a router and I want to have some static IPs on the network, is you go into the router and you can set a range where the DHCP will happen, like 50 address range, 192, 168, 1 through 50, let's say, would be your DHCP. And then you assign your static IP addresses above that range. And if you assign those static IP addresses above that range, your router will not reassign them. It'll see them, but they'll be static. So it won't be assigning anything outside of its range. Now, if you're talking about your external IP address, most providers that give you that WAN, wide area network address, have DHCP on their side. You can request a static IP address for external IP address. It's fairly heinously expensive these days. And there are tools that you can go with dynamic DNS that will automatically track your external IP address and reassign it for certain applications that you need to contact, like virtual area networks outside that you need to be able to look for a specific IP address. But if you're talking internally, just go into your router setup, set up a range of IP addresses that it can use for DHCP, and then assign your static ones outside that range, and they shouldn't change. It should stay in that routing table when it's looking for that for addresses.
Alex, you wanted to come back in?
Yeah, and Tommy said that he can connect but no internet, and I'm now confused about how you would have an internet problem in this area. But Mickey said the network's router is not always the network's DHCP server, and then Idris said that your DHCP should set with a reservation for your Mac. Check the HCHP server setting. I have to look at that. Yeah. Don't start your, and then Ryan Thompson said, don't ever start your DHCP pool at 0.1.
which Mickey replied, "Oh boy,
Yeah.
maybe fatal error there." Tommy, hope this helped you. Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas asks, would you have use in your studio for the Streamer X video capture card, audio interface, and control surface, or is the Atem Mini enough?
Let's start with Courtney Gooden. Courtney?
Well, this is the Rodecaster. This is kind of like their Rodecaster Mini video captures switcher / thing that they came out. I think this is I haven't gone and looked at it, but I think this came out before the Streamer X with their video card, which was really nice because it was kind of a competition for the Atem Mini, except it had XLR inputs, which was great. It had the Rhodes audio engine in there, so it has all the Aphex controls for sound modification and limiters, etc., echo, all that bad stuff that we never use. And it had 4 little sound pads that you could record intros and outros on, so play back some sound files if you wish. But they just lopped off one of the video inputs. It was neat because it was a lot more versatile than what the Atems could do, but it was $1,200 before. So now they lopped off one of the video inputs, made it smaller. I don't know if it still has the XLR inputs. I'll have to go back and look. But maybe it does. So it's a good audio video interface. And the neat thing that the original one did, it did super sources where it would do 2 boxes with 2 of the video inputs on one of the backgrounds. So, and it would have scene buttons, very simple interface. It had, 1, 2, 3 switches for switching to this each video input. And I think it also did video follows audio, which was another interesting thing for its external stuff. So that was interesting. And the fact that it has this A, B, C, D, which were scene buttons, kind of like macros, so that you could set up 2 boxes, let's say, with 2 video, 2 Zoom calls, a Zoom call and yourself, let's say, in the 2 boxes, and just hit a button and it would transition to those. So it was nice in the way it was set up, and they lowered the price. I don't know, somebody else can look it up. I think it's $499 or $699. I can't remember what the price is, but it's less than $1,200. So that's good. And I think they found themselves just priced out of the market with the original version.
Alexander Knight.
The Rode Streamer X is not competition for the Atem Mini because even the cheapest Atem Mini is still going to give you 4 HDMI inputs. This is really a device for somebody that just wants a way to get a single camera into their system. The Rodecaster Streamer X, this is what we're looking at here. If you look at the back here, it will support a 4K 30 input and it has 4K 60 pass-through. So let me zoom in on the back. There's your pass-through right there. You get a single mic preamp on here and headphone monitoring. It has the, like Courtney said, it's got the Aphex audio processing because Rode bought Aphex. And then you get your pad buttons there, so you could probably trigger some sound effects. Mute your microphone, turn off and on your camera, adjust your microphone and your side tone volume there. So that's really what it's geared for, $250 if you're in the US. I'll also mention that there is another competing product from Roland, which has been heavily discounted now for $150 at B&H. This is the UVC02, same concept, single mic preamp there. Sound quality is pretty good on these. It does have some DSP processing. It'll do 1080p from your HDMI in. It does not have that HDMI pass-through, so that's one thing that the Rode has an advantage on, but it does have headphone monitoring as well. I own one of these, and I'm quite actually happy with the quality of the video, and I know Guy Cochran's done some tests with scopes on the color quality and accuracy of the Roland encoders, and they are vastly superior to the USB webcam heavily compressed output that the Atem puts out. So if you're concerned about picture quality and you only need a single camera to go into your computer to get it into a Zoom meeting, I would really recommend looking at that Roland UVC02.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, the problem that I have with all of these is that I'm very addicted to noise assist. So I look at all of these through this filter of, I can't like it. I know it has an Aphex processor. I used to own an Aphex processor. I mean, I'm like, okay, like it's not, it doesn't mean a lot to me. I think that the problem that I have is that that's the only filter that I need is something that's going to very softly remove. I have a pretty noisy room, and you don't hear it too much right now, and I don't think I lose too much on my voice either. So it is, and it's turned up to like 12. Like it's not like a little bit of noise reduction on my mic. And the thing is, I know other people like other things. I have not heard anything that I like better than the noise assist, and without it, I just don't. I can't imagine doing what I do. So I look at all of these like, oh, that looks cool, but without that, I don't know how I would operate. Like especially when I'm trying to do it live. So I really feel like sound devices, if they're not going to make these little tools, they should really think about licensing, noise assist as something out there, because I think that they're no longer really focused on this market and providing. I don't think that there's a lot of people that aren't going to buy a Mix Pre 3, which is their entry level hardware, but they would pay another $150 on top of this $250 to have something that sounded quiet. And I just feel like it's a lost opportunity for sound devices to make millions of dollars, in my opinion.
Courtney, you wanted to come back in?
Yeah, I just wanted to correct myself. The one that I didn't click on that link. So the one that Alexander showed was the one I think he's talking about in the link. The one I was talking about has not been released yet. It's still coming soon, which is the Rodecaster Video S, which is the pared down version of their $1,200 one, which is what I was talking about, and it's $500. So that's what they're looking to hit the market with. It is still pre-order only, and its availability is apparently coming soon. So,
Chris Fenwick, you wanted to weigh in.
Alex, I'd be interested to know if you would regale us with a bit of a demo. How about you turn your noise reduction all the way off and let us hear your room? I know you're a master of the Mix Pre. Mine is set. I agree. I would not be able to do what I do without my Mix Pre and the noise assist. My desk has like 100 terabytes of hard drives on it.
I don't know if it's that loud, but because I don't have some of the fans on right now, but I'll can you hear that?
There it is. There's the room.
Those are the fans. So this is what it would sound like without my Mix Pre. And then if you listen to it, now it's, where it normally is.
It's putting a virtual sound blanket over your head and your mic.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and it is. And I know that and the problem is yes, Zoom does a really good job of personalized, et cetera. But that's only in Zoom. I have to be in Meet. I have to be in Teams. I have to be in all these other things. I have to. There's a lot of other places that I need sound dampening or noise dampening than just Zoom. So having a piece of hardware that does it means that. The reason that I like having all my hardware interfacing with my computer is whether I'm recording something for YouTube or I'm in any interface with somebody else, all of my control sits outside of the computer. It's not software based. And so I can now, it doesn't matter what it's connected to, and so the, and again, I feel like it's, and they spent, a lot of money and years working on noise assist, and I've owned Cedar DNS8s and DNS2s. I used to have 3 or 4 DNS2s. It was usually something we used to use a lot. I think it was a DNS1, which had all the sliders on it and stuff like that. I've had all of those things, and I don't think it's as good. Like I really don't think that the Cedar algorithm, I think it's a little more crunchy. Like if you turn it up as high as I've turned the noise assist up, it gets crunchy.
There we go. I'm back on through the Cedar system. Alexander Knight.
Yeah, so speaking of noise reduction in Cedar, I think that, and I can't say this with certainty, but Rode usually puts fairly powerful FPGA processing in their products. So the whole suite of like Rodecaster audio interfaces have a lot of processing power in there. I don't know if it would have enough room now to add that, but I really do agree with Alex. I think they should probably look at Cedar or someone else and license that technology and just add that in a firmware update to these devices. It would be amazing.
And that the conversation internally is we spent so much money on Aphex. Why are we renting or licensing something else? And it turns out that do really, really, really good noise reduction is really hard. Like it's really hard. And so that's why you want to do that.
And Alex specifies it there with doing really, really good, something controllable, fixable so that you can custom design.
There's almost
level
no,
and
there's no,
amount?
there's not really any design to noise assist other than turning it up. You know, like it does all the other stuff on its own, and so it doesn't have a lot of design to it. It's just that it's a really, really, really good algorithm done by people who cared about sound.
Yeah, what I was talking about is that there's a lot of services now with one-button noise reduction that try to do what these tools do.
In post,
they are kind of a blunt,
but they do it in
approach
post.
to it.
The issue is that this little is a Streamer X. It has to do it live, and that's what I just find. If you, and again, we talked about this before. It's easy to make content, easy to watch it. Rarely both. And the one thing that I would not that I carry around, if I have to join this show somewhere else, there's a lot of different things I'll use, but I use that little Mix Pre 3, goes with me everywhere because of the noise assist.
Yeah. Next question.
This next question comes from Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. How does your preparation change with the seasons? Are there expendables you buy every fall for winter? And are there any gear modifications that you only use seasonally? FYI, it's snowing in Indiana.
I'm sorry that you're being snowed upon, but it is wintertime. Alex, what do you say?
When my wife was going to Harvard, she was in Boston, which is a lot warmer than Southern California, which she was used to, and she was talking about how bad the weather was, and there was a Swedish student there, and he said, "There is no bad weather, just bad clothing."
Yeah, there you go. You're prepared as one.
For this, I do usually make sure I have a great rain jacket. We get more rain than snow here in California, but man, really good. Nothing replaces really, really great boots. I just have to say, like warm, I have these boots that I can go to about -30 and I'm still warm. I spent a lot of money on those boots because of production that I did where I had to stand outside and it was, very cold. So really, really great boots is something that's there. I like mittens that I can take I can pop my fingers out. So if I need to do something, I can pop them out, do something, and then fold them back in. I use those a lot when I'm doing in cold environments. I'm pretty into face masks and scarves and thick scarves because of what they're. And then the big thing is that, and Roscoe, I'm sure knows this, but a lot of people but layers is really important. It's not just a jacket. It's like you'll see me with. So I have lots of layers of things that I use, and a lot of them are built for cold because I grew up where it was cold. But I'll have 5 or 6 layers so I can decide. And a lot of them are buttoned down in the front because I want to be able to strip them off on and off based on what I need, not pullovers.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, what I would always do is, I always have my Gore-Tex parka on cold weather when we're working outside, but I always had in my car disposable raincoat. And you can get these $1.67 that fold up into a little pouch, and you can throw them in your sound cart or your equipment cart, and they unfold and they keep the water off of your legs and and they go over the top of whatever warm weather, cold weather gear that you're wearing to protect it and keep it dry so that after the rain shower goes away, you're not still stuck with a wet parka, that takes a while to dry out, etc. So I always carried one of those because you never know. You go out, hey, it's sunny today, and then suddenly that front rolls in and it starts pouring down rain and you're stuck out with no cover to go to. You pop out this thing and cover yourself up in the disposable raincoat, and when the rain goes away, you throw it away.
Nice chat in the chat about this too. Alex, you want to come back in?
I was just going to mention, Mickey said, remember that 2X batteries. And yes, your batteries are not going to last as long there. And the other thing to always remember is where you're shooting. Anytime you're shooting where there's a huge change in the temperature, just remember it affects your lenses. So you're going to get fog, you're going to get all kinds of other things. So when you go, I was in Cambodia and we had to, we made sure, it was a weird thing that this is not for cold. I made sure that I had a pretty high hotel room, so I didn't worry about security as much. And I kept all my gear on this little, kind of carefully hidden, but on my porch outside of my hotel room, because my hotel room was 68 degrees, 67 degrees, whatever that I like to keep it at. But if I kept it at that temperature, it would take 2 hours for the lenses to be ready to shoot when I went out to the, and if they're in Pelican cases, they'll slowly go down and then you have to pull them out and let them sit. So I kept everything warm, out on the deck to keep them from to make sure that they stayed acclimated to the temperature that they were in.
As I mentioned in a lot of chat, chains for winter weather, if you're going out on location, can be incredibly useful. I like David Brady's comment, too. You can always dress for the cold. You cannot undress enough for the heat.
Yeah, this is my season. My season is definitely layers. The thing that I miss, I almost bought one the other day just because it was. I have no reason for it, though. But remember, I don't know if I'm old enough to remember that we used to buy little boxes of kerosene that we would put in our pocket. It was a box,
the hand
it was
warmer.
A little metal hand warmer that we put kerosene in. We had a fire in our pocket. And so we had these little kerosene things.
We live in a great country, Alex.
I know, we had a fire in our
It's
pocket.
before the lawyers got a hold of it.
That was okay. Anyway, but there's something about it is I was at home and someone had one and I just said, you got to turn it on. And the smell of it, I just remember, and it just reminded me of home. This was definitely, you put it, Courtney's got a picture of it, and you put that in there, you turn it on, and it's got this little top on it, and you put it in the little, and you just put it in your pocket. And it would keep you warm. And
little holes in the top of it. I remember those. And we didn't use them much in Arizona. We did have a lot of things to put around the neck that were wet. We used to do a lot of evaporative cooling if you're out there. In fact, then they make hats with fans in them and all sorts of things to try to keep your bloodstream a little cooler.
Yeah,
you want to finish up?
Yeah, we didn't ski with them though. That was definitely the no-go. It was usually if you were hunting or something like that, you'd be sitting somewhere for 8 hours straight. So.
All right, next question.
Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona, USA asks, I attached 2 action cameras to a golf club yesterday for a golf tournament we were filming. When the golf pro took the shot, the club broke in 2. How would you have accomplished this shot?
Alex Lindsay's going to help you.
So I'm fascinated that the club broke in 2. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure your pro wasn't very excited about the fact that you just broke if it was a pro, it's probably a couple $100 worth of club. One thing to think about when you think about a club or anything swinging is that the amount of weight, effective weight, and not, I'm not going to get into the physics of it, but as you move the camera down towards the head, it's going to have a lot more leverage. And so what you may want to think about is moving the camera up. I'd be surprised if you put it right past where they put their hands. So they put their hands in there. If you put it right past there and pointed it down, I'd be surprised if it broke it because the angular momentum is much, much smaller up there than it is down at the end. And so I think that what you did is you probably threw off the weight. I'm guessing that you attached it near the end, not near the hands. But let me know if that's actually as soon as it connected it cracked. As soon as it connected the ball, interesting. But I'd be curious. Yeah, $500 club. Oof. But I'd be surprised. I'd like to know, Jack, whether you did it near the head or near the hands. But I think that if you did it near the hands, I would be surprised because it won't have the same effect. It won't have the same effect at the hands as it will at the head.
And I would think you need to be shooting super high speed if you wanted usable footage out of a camera near the club head, because that's in half a second, that club makes a big distance change. That's a lot of frames.
And I think that it's also just think about the weight of the camera. So it's all a multiplier. So if you can, there are some lipstick cameras that are about 8 inches below the hands. Yeah, I would make it like 2 inches below the hands. So every inch is going to matter as you go down that path, especially if you get near the middle of the club is where it's going to be problematic. But I think that, and he said it was at a driving range, not at a tournament. But I think that if you get it closer, and then also think about, instead of having an action cam that has all the things that it needs, think about a small lipstick camera or you can get these little spy cameras that are very light that have wires. And so you'd run wires. It would be a little weird for the pro, but I'm sure they could figure it out. But you have little wires that come up to maybe the end of the club or to something else. so you have a very light camera package like you'd put on a rocket, but it's not the action cam has more than you need. It's recording. It's got an interface. It's got all these other things. If you can get something that is the raw camera that is down below it, you may find you'll drop the weight by 90%, 80-90%, and that's going to do a lot to make it easier for the club to work.
I just finally caught on to the fact that I bet you they're shooting the golfer to get information back about the golfer's
I think they're
stance
just
and
doing
swing
it.
and the rest
Jack
of that.
Jack can let us know. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
data here. I think this is just it's a cool experience.
I've shot a lot of golf in Arizona and golfers, and yeah, the golf manufacturers, Ping and the rest of those people, a lot of them came out of Arizona because there's so much golf there. They spend a lot of money on these things. In fact, I've got a client right now who's working with golf pros, and it's just a fascinating sport all the way around. Courtney, you wanted to get in on this.
Yeah, it may not have been the weight of the camera itself. It may have been your method of attachment, because some of these high-end golf clubs are carbon fiber. And if it has a carbon fiber shaft and you do anything to change the stress on that carbon fiber shaft, or with even tightening down with a tie wrap, you can damage that carbon fiber, which will cause a weakness at that point. And then just swinging the head and contacting it somewhere down that shaft can cause that shaft to break. We learned this long ago with carbon fiber fish poles and attaching things to them. You can damage them and they will break.
Yeah. Chris Fenwick?
Jack, that must have felt horrible. I'll tell you, I've done a lot of golf events in the Happy Faces videos that I've done over the years. And my favorite way to cover a golf event, and I don't shoot, as you know, but I tell the camera guys, I don't want to see anybody driving. I don't want to see anybody the irons or the woods. I don't want to see anybody putting.
Tee shots.
I don't want to see anybody golfing. I want to see people at the golf course. Show them in the carts. Show them drinking a beer. Show them posing like an old-timey Great Gatsby photo, whatever. Show that they're not. Now, you're slightly different because you have a pro, but I said, these people aren't pros. They're not good at golf, so don't bother. It's a waste of your time. Just show me them having fun at the golf course. I don't want to see them golfing. And I got to tell you, it plays much better in the end video.
Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Last night was a pizza party with friends and a twin bill with Apple TV's Pluribus and Netflix Frankenstein. Could these be top of the heap for Emmy and Oscar top shows and top actors?
Alex, what do you think?
Maybe. I mean, Pluribus has got a lot of marketing behind it, and people seem pretty excited about it. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. And you have to see the end of the season. You know, it's like I don't know whether it's a good season or not. They start sometimes a little bit slow, or they start really well. But until you get to the end of the season, you're not going to know whether it's worth it or not. Man, I just finished Slow Horses, which took me a little while. That is great. so anyway, so that's all I got to say. It's really, really good.
Courtney Gooden.
And I don't know, I was kind of looking for it. I don't think I saw it as Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein played. I think it's from Netflix. I don't know if they played it in theaters, because it has to play in theaters for 2 weeks in New York and Los Angeles to be eligible for an Oscar.
I think I believe that Netflix actually owns a couple theaters to fulfill that requirement. Like I think that they own enough theaters that they can run it in their because I think that they have, and again, a lot of the filmmakers that are creative and don't really care about the awards and they just want to do their thing, I've talked to a couple of them, and they talk about how freeing it is to work for a streamer because there's not all this pressure about whether it was a failure or a success. They just got paid for it and they got it done and they got to do the thing that they wanted to do, rather than, not all of it's about awards. So yeah, but it could be. And again, it could be Emmys if it's not a Academy Award.
If it doesn't show theatrically, yes.
I don't think that Del Toro is trying to win an Oscar with Frankenstein, but maybe.
It's going to bring us to the end of our show for today. Thank you so very much for all of your attention for the course of today. Don't forget, I think Monday, is there an extra hours tonight, Alex? Do you know?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So extra hours happens at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today. So more content in the evening for those of you who this schedule doesn't quite work as well for. And our thanks, as always, to our producers. Those of you who put questions in the show, you drive the show with your questions, and everybody in that system, their votes as to what you want to spend the most time on. So thank you for all of that. They're the panelists who always show up and have such incredible expertise and really end up being the heart and soul of what we do every day. Thank you, panelists. We wouldn't be here without you guys. And our amazing back-end crew, the incredible team of technologists and other folks who make this all work behind the scenes. There's a huge cadre of them, and we appreciate all of that. That's going to take care of us today. If you were to go around and get these answers, 17,000 miles, 28,000 kilometers is how far you would have traveled. That's 138 million bananas for scale. We'll be back tomorrow doing the same thing. See you then.
Okay, roll those credits. There they go.
Nice try, Bill.
Nice try at what? What did I do? Oh.
Was it an attempt? Was it a failed attempt? Nice job.
All right, see ya.
Have a good Monday.
Nice. Wah, 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 wah. The show is over. Wah, wah. Goodbye, everybody. Please tell me that's part of the show.